Whenever you relocate from another country, this could come with some painful lessons. In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 truths that nobody talks about when they move to London. Make sure you do stick to the end because this can save you a lot of hassle. Now, moving to London can be super exciting, and yet there might be some things that you haven't considered that may end up being a complete nightmare. And if you're an expat moving to London, it's very likely that you're going to end up living in a period conversion, which has lots of character and a lot of features. However, typically what it doesn't have is a concierge or a porter. Why is that important? Well, what we're seeing increasingly is packages getting stolen. And although there is a debate that landlords could do more to secure these buildings, such as cameras and perhaps security codes for delivery people to gain access to these buildings, the reality is that it's the tenants feeling the pain right now. So what can we recommend? Well, firstly is you can get a building with a concierge or a porter that can receive these packages for you very safely and securely. If that isn't an option for you, then our recommendation is very simple. There are security lockboxes throughout the city where your parcels can be delivered very securely, and you can just pop by and get them when it's convenient for you. The second thing is your neighbours. If your neighbours are having the same type of issues, what we're seeing is a lot of people after COVID actually working from home, and perhaps have a chat with them and see if you can work something out. Really, those are the two recommendations that we make. A lot of people ask me, and Danny, but having a secure lockbox is an additional cost monthly. Yes, it is, but what's more expensive? Paying a ported building or paying an extra £30–40 a month for that lockbox? You make up the maths. Another common question I get, especially from expats coming from warm countries, be it from the US or UAE, is air conditioning. Well, it's not typical to get air conditioning here in the UK, especially not in London, unless you're getting from a new build and it's on the high end of the spectrum. Otherwise, especially period conversions, you're not getting any air conditioning. Now, despite how famous the UK is of being cold, we get very warm weathers. In fact, last year is probably one of the warmest summers that I've ever had. In fact, the summer of 2022 entered the climate record book as the first time that the UK has hit an air temperature of above 40 Celsius. It has without question been amongst the UK's hottest and driest summers overall. So what do I recommend? Well, although we do get warm summers, they're not very consistent and they don't last very long. So perhaps plan ahead. Go away during those very warm summer weeks. Otherwise, try to avoid to be in the flat during midday and also early evening. And no, asking your landlord to install air conditioning in your apartment generally isn't a great idea. And yet you might be one of those people who think, if I don't ask, I don't get. Give it a shot. If you've moved to London recently or any other city, share your experience in the comment below. You never know, you might be helping out someone who's watching this video. The UK weather is notoriously unpredictable. Even though I just shared with you that summer months are getting warmer, although they can be inconsistent, what is consistent here is the winter months. And they can be dark, murky, and very cold. So when choosing that apartment, just make sure that it has adequate heating. Now, most people prefer central heating. However, if it does have electrical heaters, just make sure you don't have to wait for half an hour for it to warm up. With central heating, typically, it's going to warm up within a few minutes. Literally, that's how it's designed for. And if you're going out for the day, just make sure you're prepared for any type of weather, despite what the weatherman says. Now, I'll tell you, it's not unusual for me to be on one side of the pavement and it being rainy, and the other side of the pavement having sunny spells. So if you're an expat moving from another country, just make sure you're prepared. And the next three is going to be relating to additional expenses in addition to the rent that you pay. So first up is going to be council tax, which doesn't exist in countries like the US. So it may need some explaining for especially those expats that are coming from the US. So council tax is the local tax which helps councils pay for the services that they provide. Now they use this money collected for council tax to maintain roads and streets lighting, for services such as street cleaning, rubbish collection, and for things like Meals on Wheels that goes for charity. Now, this is a charge that the council charges you, not the landlord. This shouldn't be confused with service charge, which is the landlord's responsibility to pay, which is there to maintain everything to do with the building. The lighting of the building, maintenance, cleaning of the main corridors and the communal areas and so forth. That's not charged to you, the tenant. TV license. Yes, most of you are going to have to pay TV license here in the UK. Now, the equivalent of something in the US, I've been told, would be something like the public radio tax, which I hear that most of you won't even have to pay. If you watch or record live TV programs on any channel, download or watch BBC programs on any BBC iPlayer, you're going to need to be covered by the TV license. Utility bills. For me and in the UK, it's common practice that when you pay the rent, it doesn't generally include any gas or electric or any water bills. It can be that some buildings do, but in general, they don't include any of that. And the reason I point this out is because we do get a lot of expats looking to rent in the UK that ask about this, because it seems that it can be common in some countries where it does include the water or other type of utilities. So do take that into consideration when you're thinking about renting a property here in London. Now, I want to put it out there, London Underground is actually one of my preferred ways of getting around in the city. Overall, the transport in London is amazing, yet it does come with some faults. So firstly, I want to go back to the weather, especially when it comes to the tube. So as it does get very warm here in London during summer, if you can just imagine, if it's warm overground and the underground, it gets dangerously hot. And for most part, the London Underground doesn't have any air conditioning. The combination of how crowded it gets during peak time and how warm it gets down there during the summer months can be a recipe for disaster. If a crowded, small, confined, high temperature, underground environment makes you uncomfortable, then I have a few recommendations for you. Number one, choose an apartment where you don't have to commute. If it's in central London, of course, it's going to cost you, but that beats something that's going to make you uncomfortable. It's for you to decide. Secondly, if you want to avoid this type of environment during summer, perhaps think about going out to work before the peak time. So that could be around about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to avoid those crowds. Yes, you may have to reach work earlier, but that's just the price that you're going to have to pay. Same thing in the evening, you go home later or perhaps even before 5 p.m. The other thing is, when you're going to choose a place to live, think about having a station that has several underground lines, that you don't have just one to choose from, because that way you can pick and choose on which one's more crowded and see which one works better for you on that particular day, especially if there are strikes or if there are issues with certain lines, because some lines can be more unpredictable. As an example, I did a bit of research and I found that the Piccadilly line is one of the most unpredictable lines that there is in the Underground. This is something that came up last year, that the Evening Standard, I believe, were the one that brought this up. So the Evening Standard stated that Piccadilly line is one of the least reliable tube lines and passengers face years of delays before an upgrade is completed. Alternatively, you do have other means of transport, but for me, the tube is the best despite all its flaws. Lack of rental properties here in London has become a major issue, and for the whole of the UK for that matter. And of course, that imbalance between supply and demand is pushing rents up again and again. And of course, the competition between tenants is very fierce. It's become quite common here in tenants having to pay 12, even 24 months in advance. Sometimes we take rents up to £50,000, £60,000, and also forcing tenants to secure longer leases so they can now outbid other tenants. So those are the two things that are happening, and really the things that I recommend if you want to beat other tenants. The third thing that I recommend, of course, as well, is hire a relocation agent. They're just going to make your life so much easier and potentially even have a better chance in securing the rental properties. Let's talk about condensation damp, which is a very common problem in the UK and especially in rental properties here in London. So of course, when you go out and view properties, this is something that you want to look out for. Generally, you'll see this in the corners of the ceiling together with the walls, and it's very common to see it as well in the kitchen and in the bathroom, because it's places where if you don't keep good ventilation, it does build up. Here's my advice to you. Look out for that. See if that has very big patches that might be for something of concern, and if so, it might not be a property that you want to secure. However, if it's a small patch, in most cases, it is the previous tenants that haven't done their role in terms of keeping the ventilation going through and through, making sure that the fans are operating. So I hope that helps. Okay, make sure you hit that like button And tell me down below in the comments as to what your experience has been moving to London that can benefit other people. And if you want to find out more about renting in London, make sure you check out our other videos.